Morning, everybody. Good to see you again. Feels like it's been forever. Hi, everyone. Thanks for joining us today. Do you know what a puff bar is? A geek bar? How about a Lost Mary? They are nicotine vapes, and some vape shops are selling them to underage kids in the Valley. We are cracking down on vape shops because it is unacceptable that they continue to skirt the law in Arizona. As the first mom to hold the position of Arizona Attorney General, I think I speak for every Arizona parent when I say that it is egregious that these shops are actively advertising nicotine vapes and e-cigarettes to minors. Vape shops should not be selling to minors, period. That's why today my office has filed civil complaints against New York Smoke Shop LLC and ProSource Supply LLC, ProSource Vapes LLC, and ProSource CBD LLC, collectively ProSource, and their ownership and management. These are two of the businesses that most persistently and recklessly sell tobacco, nicotine products to underage kids in Arizona. In the face of numerous citations, fines of thousands of dollars, re-education and warnings, New York Smoke Shop and ProSource continue to sell tobacco and nicotine products to Arizona youth under the age of 18, which is in violation of state criminal law, and under the age of 21, which is in violation of federal law. And as of September, thanks to the new bill that was signed by Governor Hobbs, the lawful age of purchase in Arizona will be 21 starting this September. Multiple children aged 16 to 17 were allowed to purchase e-cigarettes and cartridges successfully from these vape shops with no request for ID during our office's youth tobacco counter-strike program. In one case, a law enforcement officer observed a New York smoke shop employee ask a youth buyer if he was 21. To which the young person replied, "No, I'm 16. He was still permitted to purchase a nicotine product. Our counter-strike program's goal is to reduce youth access to tobacco in retail offices or retail outlets by systematically monitoring their compliance with state laws which prohibit the sale of tobacco products to minors. Our youth volunteers, accompanied by special investigators from our office, enter tobacco retailers and attempt to purchase tobacco products. Isabella, one of our youth volunteers who helped us with this critical law enforcement work, is here today. She's right over there, and she's going to come up in a few minutes and give some remarks as well. In fact, I wanted to say, just by way of background, we have 100 youth volunteers working as a part of the tobacco strike force, and we're very proud of them. And they have been working, we've been working on this for, I think, Doug, more than 20 years. And so that is how we did this law enforcement sting operation. During these undercover inspections for underage sales, New York Smoke Shop has had an 83% failure rate. Let me repeat that, 83% failure rate throughout the last 3 years, having passed only one Attorney General's office inspection out of 6 inspections. ProSource had a 67% failure rate across its 3 locations. The average rate of failure among tobacco retailers in Arizona since 2018 is only 13%. These extremely high fail rates by these defendants today are unacceptable. We are aware of the allegations that these shops have also sold to children as young as 13, and that they are selling THC vapes in addition to nicotine. Beyond failure to ID, these vape shops do not warn youth of the dangers these products pose to their health and safety, nor the illegality of the sale to underage consumers. In addition, they are actively drawing kids into their stores with cartoon-like advertising, graffiti art styles, and colorful displays that are designed to attract children. You can see some of that over here. You can see some of that here. This is a bag that we bought inside one of the stores, and then you can see the colorful clothing there on the screen. They also push extreme sales and discounts in an attempt to appeal to younger customers. And so as a result, my office is taking the next steps in enforcement. We will not allow these shops to continue to sell drugs to children. We are throwing the book at them, including using, for the first time ever in Arizona, the Arizona Consumer Fraud Act against a tobacco retailer. We all know the harms of nicotine and smoking. Tobacco use remains the #1 preventable death and cause of death in the United States, creating and causing more than 480,000 deaths every year. That number is the equivalent of 6 passenger airplanes crashing every single day of the year. 480,000 people and deaths that were preventable every year. We have the responsibility to protect the next generation of Arizonans from a life of addiction, and the companies pushing vapes and e-cigarettes on children must be held accountable, and that is what we are doing today. People under the age of 25 are more susceptible to addiction because their brains are not fully developed. We all know that. Over 85% of all tobacco users begin using tobacco before the age of 18, and approximately 95% begin using before the age of 21. These stats are just as stark here in Arizona. 51% of Arizona high school students have tried vaping, and Phoenix Children's Hospital reports that 1 in 2 Arizona high schoolers have tried e-cigarettes. That is far too high. These stores need to be held accountable. So let this be a warning to the vape shops operating in Arizona. Do not sell to children, or we will come after you. Make sure to ID every customer, cut out the dangerous cartoon advertising, and follow the law. And I want to, before I turn it over to Isabella, I do want to show you some of these insane products that are being sold to our kids here. I think you can see here the cartoon-like characters. This is a guitar, a purple guitar that I believe is a vape, an e-cigarette that was sold, is being sold to children in the state of Arizona and to teenagers. I don't know what this, it says a Luca bear, but this is also a vape, a cigarette that is being sold to kids. And I think we have somewhere over here it's on the podium. Oh yes, here. We have some sort of a car. This is a red, what do we used to call these? Hot Wheels car that is actually an e-cigarette. So you can see that it is being marketed. This stuff is clearly being marketed to our kids, and that is against the law in the state of Arizona. So with that, I want to just finish by thanking the team that brought these cases. Especially, I want to thank Doug Lau, who's in the back of the room. He's the head of our tobacco unit. Erica Mansour, Jane Fallon, and Liza Lawson for their hard work on these cases. And Isabella, would you like to say a few words about the program and your experience with it? Come on up.
Hello, my name is Isabella Gutierrez, and I'm the National Truth Ambassador for the state of Arizona. I'm 19 years old, and I'm currently studying for a bachelor's degree in Christian Studies at the Grand Canyon University. But I first want to thank the Attorney General, Kris Mayes, for being a steadfast protector of this generation, as well as the generations to come. Your work has had an enormous impact on this issue, and on behalf of Truth Initiative, we really appreciate everything you've done. And we hope that you will continue to fight for change. My work with the Counter-Strike program has led me to continue my efforts to decrease youth nicotine addiction by joining Truth Initiative as an ambassador, where I advocate for those with a story but are lacking a voice. In 2024, 1.63 million middle and high school students reported e-cigarette use. Using nicotine at this young of an age can pose a serious threat, like Ms. Mayes said earlier. And using nicotine, it can pose a serious threat to developing brains, like she said. And high rates of daily and frequent use can put these young users at risk for nicotine addiction. This is why I'm so passionate about getting rid of these products that are so readily marketed toward youth, many of which are illegal. During my time in the Counter-Strike program, I experienced firsthand the ease of access that youth have to these products. As an ambassador, I've heard stories of people's lives being destroyed by nicotine addiction, and most of these stories started when they were young. As I've learned what it means to be a truth ambassador and experienced the injustice of being allowed to purchase tobacco underage, my priority goes to the protection of youth. I believe that even the smallest change in policy can have an impact on this issue, and I plan to continue to advocate for the protection of our generation from a lifetime of addiction, because change can only start with action. Thank you.
Okay, we'd be happy to take any questions that you have. Yes.
Madam Attorney General, so this strike force that you have here, obviously is this more of a routine thing, or were you all tipped off to this activity and that's what led to this formation of the strike force to go to these businesses?
Yeah, so this was, I think this is something obviously that's been brewing. These are two companies that are very bad actors, that have had numerous citations and just refused to come into compliance with the law. That being said, I'm a mom, and you can talk to any mom or dad in the state of Arizona who has a middle schooler, which I have, and they will tell you horror stories about what is going on at middle schools, which is far too many of our kids are getting addicted to vapes, e-cigarettes. So we have seen this. I personally saw this, and I know many parents who are worried about it. It is one of the top disciplinary issues for school officials. And I think we have also all seen a rise in the number of smoke shops that are setting up around our high schools and our middle schools. It's something I'm also interested in looking at. At a minimum, what we want to do, and what I wanted to do with this, was to say and to send a strong signal to this industry that if you violate the law and sell this garbage to our kids, we're coming after you, and we're going to do it in a way that you're going to regret. So one of the things that you will notice in the complaints is that we are seeking not only monetary damages of upwards of $10,000 per violation. So potentially we could be getting a lot of money out of these companies and future companies that we go after, but we're also seeking an injunction. We're seeking to dissolve their companies, and essentially we are seeking what is essentially the business version of the death penalty. So you do this and you're not going to exist in the state of Arizona anymore as a company. Yes.
Are the shops still open? And then how many of the franchise or the locations did not pass the?
So I might ask Doug to help me with that, but it's my understanding that the shops are still open. This is a civil lawsuit. Obviously, we are willing to take it to court. I can also tell you that they have the two different complaints, and the different LLCs and companies are located in Scottsdale, Tempe, Chandler, and Glendale. Stacy?
Can you say more about, I believe you said this was the first time the Consumer Fraud Act has been used in this context. Talk to us about the legal case there, if you can.
Yeah, so what we are saying in the case is that this activity violates the Consumer Fraud Act in several ways. Number one, that the conduct of these companies is deceptive. It represents false pretenses, false promises, misrepresentation, concealment, suppression or omission of material facts with the intent that others rely on that concealment or suppression. We also allege that the conduct is deceptive and unfair. These are unfair acts and practices by misrepresenting or impliedly expressing that the sale of tobacco products to persons under the lawful age in Arizona is legal by repeatedly selling tobacco products to persons under the lawful age. And so some of that deceptive practices by using, colorful products. Some of it is by failing to post that it is illegal to sell to underage people, and some of that deceptiveness and unfairness comes from just selling to people who are underage. So we think this fits squarely within the contours of the Arizona Consumer Fraud Act, and obviously the other measures that we were taking, that the state was taking, and the federal government, because, by the way, the FDA has a role in this as well, was not working. And so we're taking it to this next step because we think it's important, and this is a powerful tool that can be deployed to stop this activity and to protect our kids. Brown.
It will speak to that next step, so the state will have a law within 3 months that'll take effect that appears to be basically a slap on the wrist compared to what you're doing. Is this the kind of law enforcement that's needed versus a $100 fine for selling tobacco to a kid?
Yeah, unfortunately, I think it is. And it's, obviously the fines that were being issued and that would be issued under the new law, at least in some cases, are not working. Now, that being said, the failure rate for, a vast majority of these businesses is only 13%. So a lot of businesses are complying. When we send our youth strike force investigators in, along with our adult investigators, by the way, the vast majority of these companies are passing the inspection. But we do have some extremely bad actors and others who are in the sort of mid-range, that we're going to be looking at as well. And I think it's important to send a signal to these vape shops and smoke shops that we're not going to put up with this anymore, that our kids are precious, and that we don't want them getting addicted to vapes when they're 16 years old, if ever. Hopefully never. Yes.
So you've identified 2 companies that have really failed compliance. How many companies are there that passed the compliance, that had that low failure rate? And then kind of a follow-up to that, I imagine that a lot of these products are also sold at those companies that are in compliance with, the age thing. Is there still concern that these products are still being sold in those locations as well?
Well, we're going to be watching for that. I mean, it's a great question, right? And yeah, I mean, this is a problem. The fact that the industry is willing to sell this stuff is a problem, because it's clear that this is targeted at young people. And so I'll get you an answer to the question about how many have passed. It's about 13%, but I don't know the raw number off the top of my head, but we'll get you an answer to that question. But yeah, I mean, they're passing, these other companies, these other businesses are passing the inspections and apparently not selling these, or not getting caught selling these to kids. But what I want the vape shops and the smoke shops to understand is that our eyes are on you, and you better not try, because we're going to be watching.
What help,
Barbara.
What help, if any, is the state of New York giving you? Have you been in touch with the AG over there?
About the actions that they've taken?
About
Yeah.
about
You
the
mean
actions that they've
New York
taken,
Smoke Shop?
About how they can help you with your case.
I don't know that they're directly connected to New York. I don't think there's any connection to New York. I will say other AGs have taken similar actions. And so, and then I would say there's an interesting issue related to the whole supply chain of vapes that I'm interested in addressing, because, obviously we have in the past in this office, and other AGs have gone after companies like Juul, but there's a whole supply chain that I'm interested in taking a look at. Let's just put it that way. Yeah.
I wanted to ask you a question heat related. We were at a senior living complex yesterday without working air conditioning. Some of those units 95 degrees inside. You know that your office sent civil investigators to the property. What kind of action could be taken, and what's your message to landlords here in the valley, and that landlord as well?
Yeah, and thank you for that question. I appreciate the opportunity to talk about that. We did send a team of civil investigators out to Urban League Manor, and it is absolutely unacceptable for tenants to go without working air conditioning in the middle of the summer, especially as our temperatures continue to rise. I mean, tomorrow we're looking at 117-degree heat potentially in the valley. And I take this issue, as you know, very seriously. We intervened last summer when the Buenos apartment complex had the same situation, and we continue to work on that case. And what I would say is we are monitoring that. We've sent investigators out, and today we are sending a cease and desist letter to the owners of the Urban League Manor to tell them that we expect them to comply with the Arizona Landlord Tenant Act. We will continue to take actions if necessary if they don't come into compliance ASAP.
And I know this had been going on for what we were told 4 days. Some of the renters told us today that it seems like the air might be working again, or they've experienced it going on and off. what's your message to renters that are in this situation? Because some of them said they didn't really feel like they knew what they could do.
Yeah, my message is this: please, please, please call my office and file a complaint with us. You can go to www.azag.gov/consumer and file that complaint. You can also call us if this is happening to you at any apartment complex across the valley. And you can call 602-542-5763. And, you know, as our summers get hotter and hotter and hotter, we need to be sending a signal to landlords that they have obligations under the law. And if they break the law by not upholding their end of the bargain when they took money from tenants to provide safe and livable conditions, which includes air conditioning, that we are going to come after them and hold them accountable. You know, what our investigators found yesterday was in some apartments, it was 98 degrees. 98 degrees. People have died. We know this. Several people have already died in Arizona in indoor temperatures at that rate. We also found people who were put in a common area and were asked to sleep on air mattresses and who were not being put up at hotels. And I thank you for your reporting on this. I thank the media for all of their reporting on this, because in a way, this is a team effort to get the information to us so that we can enforce this.
Are state regulators tough enough in enforcing not very effective laws?
Yeah, Bram, is a great question. I would say what I would like to see is the Arizona Landlord Tenant Act stiffened. I think it's not the greatest law in the world, and I think the law in Arizona is very pro-landlord and very lopsided in favor of landlords. So I would like to see some penalties stiffened in that law, and that's something we'll be looking at for the next legislative session. So yes, I mean, in a lot of these cases, it falls to me, the Attorney General, to try to enforce these the laws that I can enforce. I can enforce the Arizona Landlord Tenant Act. I can also enforce the Arizona Consumer Fraud Act in some circumstances surrounding these air conditioning issues.
What DHS regulations?
Yeah, I mean, I think that there's room for improvement there as well. I think DHS plays a role here, or should play a greater role here too.
Getting back to the vaping, is there just maybe a common misunderstanding among youth that vaping and e-cigarettes are not as harmful as smoking regular cigarettes?
Yeah, I mean, that's a great question, and it might be a question more for health officials. Oh, I don't know if Doug has some thoughts on that, but you know, it may be a perception that's out there that because you don't have combustion and you don't have a cigarette that's lit and it's vapor, that it's somehow less harmful. That's actually not necessarily true, because the vape portion of these vaping cigarettes is very addictive. It actually, many of these cigarettes deliver a higher amount of nicotine when you're smoking them, and so, you know, they can be, you know, they're making them very attractive to kids. The flavors are a huge problem. That's attracting kids. The design of these things is attracting kids, and then the merch that they have inside the stores is attracting kids, and that is just a huge problem.
Off the topic, a specific case, what's the status of your investigation for the shooting death of Paul Franco in Phoenix? It occurred in 2024. Have you declined to prosecute the Palestinian protester? who claimed self-defense? Is this in your, this comes from a colleague?
Can I check on that? We'll check on that for you. Yeah, we'll check on both of those.
Separately, an election-related question, CD7, special primaries coming up next week. Adrian Fontes asked you back in May to issue an opinion on the way he and county recorders are responding to this massive glitch affecting 200,000 voters. I understand that opinion is coming.
Yep.
There's a vote next week. Can you assure those voters they won't be disenfranchised because of this glitch?
What I will say is we're working on that. There is an opinion coming, and I have every confidence that we're not going to see any disenfranchisement of voters.
I wanted to ask about the constitutional challenge to the Secure the Border Act. I just, wanted to get some insight into the Attorney General's position in moving to dismiss that case, and then just more generally, the position on federal immigration enforcement.
Yeah, what I would say is this. So it's, as the Attorney General, it's my job to enforce the law. The voters have spoken. We took a look at the results of that initiative and decided that most of the provisions we could enforce and that we could defend in court. We determined that there was nothing unconstitutional about the provisions within it that we are enforcing and that we are defending in court. And so while I join with law enforcement all across the state of Arizona in saying that it is a giant unfunded mandate and puts a lot of pressure on local law enforcement to do things that they have no money to do with, to do it with, I am duty bound to defend it in court, and that's what we're doing. I will say, while you're all here, about current events in law enforcement, I am really disturbed by the tactics that we are seeing in some other states, including the one to our west, by ICE and Border Patrol and others, to mask themselves when they're engaged in immigration enforcement. I have expressed that dissatisfaction already to ICE. I have told them I don't want to see it in the state of Arizona. And I have told them and reminded them that pretty much no other law enforcement agencies in the state of Arizona, including mine, mask themselves when they are engaged in law enforcement. Now, there are certain undercover operations where masking is necessary, but it is extremely rare, extremely rare. And what law enforcement tells me, both in this building and outside this building, is that it is a dangerous situation. And we're already seeing this in other parts of the country where bad actors and criminals are taking advantage of this, masking themselves up and attempting to kidnap people or carjack people. And so what I would say is, I don't want to see it in the state of Arizona. As the top law enforcement officer of the state of Arizona, masking yourself is unacceptable. It's bad law enforcement, and it's just not something we've ever seen before. And, with regard to, they might be doxxed, come on. Law enforcement across the state of Arizona do their jobs honorably. They do their jobs professionally. They do their jobs every day without masking themselves and hiding who they are. Barbara, yeah.
Just your thoughts on the $140 billion, I believe, from the so-called Big Beautiful Bill, just for ICE. Just your thoughts on that, and do you fear that perhaps as soon as next year we might be seeing, and I say this as an exaggeration, an ICE agent on every corner? I mean, what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I guess it remains to be seen how this plays out. But it's, when you give so much money to one federal agency that it amounts to essentially the same amount that the Marines are getting, means that that agency is going to be everywhere all at once, probably. And so I would expect that in Arizona, and we'll be watching closely, that they, again, do their jobs professionally. I don't want to see masks, and I don't want to see racial profiling. We've seen that in the state of Arizona before. It was called Senate Bill 1070. It's called Sheriff Joe Arpaio. We've got court cases in the state of Arizona on this issue. And we don't need to see it here again. The other thing I would say with regard to the big, awful, disgusting, gross, how many other synonyms can I come up with, bill, is that it is absolutely anti-law enforcement when you really think about it. And I've been talking to sheriffs and police chiefs about this. These Medicaid cuts are going to hit local sheriffs across the state of Arizona. Why? Because they're responsible for, number one, treating prisoners, and the Medicaid cuts are going to hit them there. And number two, it's also going to hurt their jail reentry programs by slashing Medicaid funding for behavioral health. So this is an extremely anti-law enforcement bill, and in that way, I don't think people are talking about it much. I don't think people are talking about that aspect of it, and I wish they would. But this is, and then in addition to that, and by the way, we're going to be putting out a report on this, but in addition to that, think about it. When this big for the billionaires bill goes into place, it's going to shut down rural hospitals in Arizona. Imagine what that is going to mean for local law enforcement. When a police officer is shot or hurt in the line of duty and we can't get him or her to a hospital that's close by, we have to go 3, 4, 5 hours to get a law enforcement officer to the hospital who's hurt in the line of duty. That is horrific. That is terrible. Not to mention that our frontline workers and law enforcement officers are the ones who are going to have to get other people to hospitals that are 3 and 4 and 5 hours away. And so just, I would say, shame on every Republican member of Congress who voted for this disgusting bill. Because you just voted to kill people in the state of Arizona. So, okay, any other questions on, yes, one over here.
Quick follow-up about the masking. Did you hear back from ICE about your call to police officers?
Yeah, I had a conversation with them a couple weeks back and didn't get anywhere. I mean, they just said that that's their policy, that they're afraid of doxing, and I told them I thought that was bullshit.
So their policy is to mask when they're out in the field, or
Yes.
is it allowed?
Yes. Well, actually, I don't know the answer to that question. I should say I don't know the answer. It would appear to me that it's their policy to mask, but I have seen some agents out there who are not masking. But you know, yeah.
Who was it you spoke to?
I'm not going to say, but it was a high-level leadership here in Arizona, Brown, for ICE and HSI.
And so what can you do beside issuing a stern warning? Don't come into my house with that.
Yeah. I don't know. I mean, we're thinking that through. There's maybe not much, but you know, I can speak out about it, and I can continue to try to make it clear to these guys how dangerous this is, how outside of the norm it is, and how I do not accept it as this top law enforcement officer of the state of Arizona. And you know, what's sad to me is that we have had over the last 20 years, maybe longer than that, in this office. Richie's about to give me the yank here, but Brown's like, no, let her go on and on. We've had great relationships with our federal partners. We do. we operate in task forces, HIDTA task forces. We operate together. The AG's office, I do 80% of the big drug investigations and prosecutions in the state of Arizona in partnership with the DEA, sometimes in partnership with HSI, sometimes in partnership with the FBI, and sometimes with ICE. And so this is just very sad, and it strains those relationships. But we're going to continue to do work on behalf of the people of Arizona, keep Arizonans safe, while expressing what I think most Americans believe, which is that real lawmen and women don't wear masks.
Can we circle back to tobacco for just a moment?
Sure. Yeah.
You suggested you had a problem with where these shops are located, and you're going to take a look at that.
Yeah.
What kind of thing can you take a look at?
Well, I'm going to ask my my tobacco unit to take a look at where these shops are located, and are they located increasingly close to schools. We know that there have been complaints from parents and from school districts about this. And it may be more of a city zoning issue. It may not be something that I can address, but I think it's something that I could work with cities and city councils to think about, is it really a good idea to allow these things to be, these locations, especially if they're selling this, to set up shop right next to Central High School or Sunny Slope High School or you name it high school? I think probably not. Yeah.
Last one.
So you had mentioned that as a mom of a middle schooler, you've seen kind of the effects of this issue firsthand. What can you share of what you've personally seen in your own life of how this has impacted you?
Well, I talked to my daughter about it. I talked to my daughter, and I've asked her, I've said to my daughter, hey, do you see this in the bathrooms at your middle school? And the answer is always yes. It is pervasive. It's out there, and it is. And if you talk to any principal in the state of Arizona, they'll probably tell you this is one of their top disciplinary issues, and it's just sad. As Isabella said so eloquently, the best way to avoid addiction as an adult is to stop it as a kiddo. And to stop it before our kids get access to it, and this industry is just making it incredibly difficult to do that when they do stuff like this. So, okay, thank you guys. It's good to see you again.
Isabella's around if you have questions about what it's like to do a counter-strike sting.
Can we get the specific addresses of the shops that